Hello? Hi all, I'm Lao Gao. Some viewers comment they fall asleep watching our videos, so today I'll discuss something to keep you awake. Since humans began exploring the oceans, tales of gigantic and mysterious unknown creatures have been endless, though few have seen them. Today I will introduce a few worlds that might be related to deep-sea monsters. The earliest detailed account of a deep-sea monster in modern times was 200 years ago on September 25, 1808, when a storm hit Stronsay, England. Afterward, a gigantic creature's carcass washed ashore, found by a local fisherman, 2 farmers, and a carpenter. The fisherman saw it first, floating in the sea, and got startled, not daring to approach. By then, it was already a corpse. He thought it was an enormous body in the sea. He wanted to get closer, but said rocks were nearby, so he couldn't. He just watched from afar, wondering what this thing was that he'd never seen before. The next day, the waves grew stronger and pushed it to the shore, where people saw it. According to witnesses, it was a gigantic snake-like creature. However, there were no cameras at the time, therefore there is no objective evidence of what this creature looked like, only descriptions from people. However, there is a sketch, and this sketch comes from Sir Alexander Gibson, who was a well-known British researcher of mysterious creatures at the time. He created 2 drawings based on the descriptions provided by the discoverers. The farmers and carpenter who found the creature also took some measurements, noting that part of the tail was missing, so the overall length was unknown. The remaining portion was said to be 55 feet long. It's about 16.8 meters, among the longest in marine life, like the giant squid. Current estimates suggest the longest is 18 meters, and this one is 16.8 meters.
This image looks like the Loch Ness Monster.
It looks quite similar, doesn't it? They say the head is severely decomposed and looks a bit like a sheep's head. The epidermis is grayish and elastic, approximately 2 inches in thickness, which is about 5 centimeters thick. It feels quite unique to the touch. They mention that if you gently stroke it from the head to the tail, it feels exceptionally smooth, similar to velvet, but if you stroke it in the opposite direction, it becomes particularly rough.
Scales.
It's akin to possessing barbs. The most astonishing aspect about it is that it possesses 3 pairs of legs, totaling 6 limbs, located on its abdomen. This extraordinary creature is exceedingly rare on our planet. Its back is adorned with elongated bristle-like hair, extending from its neck all the way to its tail, reminiscent of a dinosaur. This hair even emits a glow, casting an eerie luminescence that is visible in the darkness. Due to its overall deteriorated state, it was already in the process of decaying and had visible wounds, so witnesses observed parts of its internal organs. The flesh appeared like particularly coarse, discolored beef, filled with fat and fish meat, which was entirely different. After the discovery, it began decaying continuously at a very rapid rate, and soon it almost completely decomposed. Up to now, only these descriptions remain. These descriptions sound somewhat vague, but they are somewhat reliable, because once this creature was discovered, it swiftly reached the ears of some British nobles, especially in Edinburgh. The society is a place where people interested in natural sciences gather with nobles to conduct research every day. This society still exists and is the oldest scientific society in the UK. The scholars of the Royal Society of Edinburgh, based on the descriptions, believe it might be a giant sea serpent. Some also think it could be the legendary old shark.
The old shark.
In our episode about the Loch Ness Monster, we introduced a type of shark that feeds passively. It swims around with its mouth open all day, and when food comes in, it eats it. You know, it's a particularly ancient type of shark found in that part of Britain. It's relatively frequent, quite frequent actually, but the ancient shark doesn't possess 6 legs. This creature has 6 appendage-like structures.
Well, it is missing half and isn't entirely complete. Does it still possess legs at the rear?
Whether it has them or not, Laosha doesn't have as many, and Laosha has fewer. Plus, the longest Laosha found is just over 12 meters. This thing is over 16 meters long in just one part, while typically an old shark's body length is 6 to 8 meters, and 9 to 10 meters is rare. A 12-meter one was found in Canada in 1851, and it doesn't have a mane behind it. He doesn't.
Legs, right?
Yes.
To be honest, based on the description, it really resembles a plesiosaur. Plesiosaurs have a type of fin similar to fish fins. However, plesiosaurs do not have 3 pairs of fins. There are only 2 pairs, so what this thing is remains a mystery. Later, the carcass was named the Stronsay Beast, which is one of the earliest detailed accounts of a deep-sea monster in modern history. Since then, similar things have been discovered continuously. The second one was found 77 years later, in 1885, along the coast of New River Bay in Florida, USA, where a huge creature was discovered. This was also pushed to the shore by a storm, looking like this, with 2 long ends, measuring 12 meters and having a pair of distinct fins. Right, there was nothing else, no visible head, and it was unclear which end was the head. When this thing was discovered, it was severely decomposed, and the internal organs were visible. After it was found, a pastor named Mr. Gordon, who was the chairman of an American Humane Society and very interested in mysterious creatures, went to the site. He went to that place and conducted measurements and various examinations on the body. Mr. Gordon said this is a vertebrate, not an octopus or a giant squid. Initially, he thought it was some kind of whale, but after his observations, he came to a surprising conclusion, saying it somewhat resembles a lizard. Initially he believed it was a whale, but upon examining the skin, he pondered, oh, how does this resemble a lizard?
Was its foot already in a state of decomposition?
Mr. Gordon didn't see any feet. He planned to find someone to move it for study, but after a day, another storm came, and when he returned, it was gone. It's said the sea might have taken it back. To this day, what it was is unknown. It was later called the American Star River Entrance Monster. By the way, Mr. Gordon wasn't the first to find it, but he's always mentioned because he measured it. In cases of unknown creatures or UFOs, witnesses with an academic background are highlighted. Their statements and testimonies are given special attention. Among the individuals who were present and witnessed the event, those possessing an academic or scholarly background are typically emphasized. Their statements and testimonies receive special and significant consideration. For us ordinary individuals, what we describe is generally regarded as a standard point of reference. They serve as pivotal references, indeed akin to influencers, and consequently, what they articulate receives special mention in the newspapers. Thus, it's not solely Mr. Gordon who has witnessed this phenomenon. It's due to his academic credentials and the authority to discuss it. Well, 11 years later, in 1896, again in the state of Florida, USA, this time in a different place, a town called St. Augustine, something different was discovered. This thing was later called the St. Augustine Monster, and there were photos of it. It didn't look big, but it was actually huge. On the evening of November 30th, 1896, two young boys were riding their bicycles by the seaside and discovered this enormous pinkish-white thing.
Pinkish white, is it?
It looked quite different from the photo, with one end buried in the sand. After discovering this thing, the two boys circled around it several times, looked at it for a long time, but still couldn't figure out what it was. They quickly ran back to town to tell a very famous local doctor, Dr. Webb, about it. The two young boys speculated that it might be a whale and assumed it was stranded, prompting them to seek assistance from this individual to rescue it. This individual is Dr. Weber, who possesses an academic background. The subsequent day, which happened to be December 1st, Dr. Weber made his way to the beach and observed the object. He described it as having a pink hue, although it had already turned quite white, reflecting a silvery radiance in the sunlight. He speculated that this object was a portion of an animal's body. How big is this thing? The part exposed above the sand is 18 feet long, which is about 6 meters wide and 2 meters wide, like the width of a road. So it looks much larger than it does in the photo.
It doesn't look like anything, just a big mass of flesh. Yes, with someone next to it, that's about right.
Dr. Weber hypothesized that this object might be an enormous chunk of flesh weighing in excess of 5 tons. Subsequently, he attempted to slice off a portion with a knife to bring back for examination, but he realized that it was extremely tough, yet possessed a rubbery texture, akin to firm rubber. Furthermore, he observed that this entity appeared to have 4 appendage-like structures resembling arms or tentacles that seemed to be severed. The longest measures 2 to 3 feet, around 7 meters, while the other 3 are shorter, between 1 to 2 meters. It's said to feel much like an elephant's trunk. It was connected to the main body. Due to this entity's pinkish-white coloration and tentacle-like formations, it was naturally assumed to potentially be a colossal octopus.
No squid.
Yes, back then it was already known to be big. The existence of the giant squid was discovered in 1857. The famous Danish zoologist Japetus Steenstrup was the first to scientifically document the giant squid and named it. This event occurred 44 years after the giant squid was discovered, so at that time people thought, oh, there might be even larger giant squids in the sea. However, looking at it now, it can basically be determined that this might not be a giant squid, because up until now, the largest giant squid found only weighs about 1/10 of this. This piece of meat is about 5 tons, while a large squid is generally around 500 kilograms. If it were a colossal squid, this one would be too big. Regarding the colossal squid, when we previously discussed giant marine creatures, the large squid is actually not the biggest. There is one even larger called the giant soy sauce squid.
They just caught its tentacles.
Oh yes, the colossal squid has only been found in juvenile form, not adult form yet. What are the differences between the giant squid and the colossal squid? They both belong to the squid category. Regular squids are in deep seas worldwide, but the colossal squid is only in the Antarctic region. Another difference is that the big eye squid is long and slender with an estimated maximum length of 18 meters. In contrast, the colossal squid is shorter and stouter with a heavier weight. The largest colossal squid is estimated to reach 750 kilograms, possibly even up to a ton. But it doesn't weigh up to 5 tons. Another difference is that both the giant squid and its relative have 8 arms and 2 long tentacles. These tentacles differ. The giant squid's tentacles have only suckers, while its relative has 2 hooks on its tentacles. Therefore, it is better at fighting and is more formidable in battles. It can even fight with sperm whales. If a sperm whale has scars, it's likely from this giant squid. Because its habitat is very limited to the area near Antarctica, it is even more of a mystery than the giant squid. So far, no adult specimens have been found, and up to now only females have been discovered, with no males found. It's suspected males are bigger, but they've never been seen. Why males can't be found is unknown. Maybe males are just rare, with the rest being females. It's structured like this, right? Sperm whales must have seen it. Inside their stomachs, there's that particularly large mouth, indicating that this creature might weigh 750 kilograms, and even a ton. Sperm whales can still take it on. The sperm whale might be the only natural enemy of the giant squid in this world. Conversely, the sperm whale's only natural enemy is the giant squid. It's uncertain which one would win. Oh, they are evenly matched.
Evenly matched.
When sperm whales are young, their main enemy is the giant squid. When they grow up, it seems like they might be able to win, right?
If he were to become my matchmaker.
Knew it, he surely knows.
Can someone communicate with pets? Yes.
That should be about right. Yeah, sperm whales have bigger brains, so they should be smarter, and their brain waves should be stronger.
You're sour.
How big is it? To communicate a bit, right? So, the remaining oil is this big. Earlier than me. So whether it's the giant squid or the giant soy sauce, none are this big, but its texture, it should have that kind of feel. However, at the time, Dr. Weber didn't know exactly how strong this giant squid was, so he thought it might have been a giant 5C person. Later, Dr. Weber, after returning to the city, got 2 people to take photos of it, which is why the photos were kept. The first person who took photos had severe overexposure, making it impossible to see what was on the newspaper, so it couldn't be published. Thus, this photo never appeared in the newspaper. It was later found, and it was said there was this unpublished photo back then, while the newspaper published an illustration instead. Oh hey, they found an artist to draw it based on the photo and description, and it turned out really well, didn't it? Otherwise, people wouldn't know what it was, right? It looks a bit like a whale, but why does it have legs and tentacles? Another thing everyone needs to pay attention to is that although it looks like this thing is lying on the beach, actually a large part of it is buried in the sand.
By the waves.
How did they know most of it was underneath? They got someone to dig it up to move it, but after digging for a long time, they couldn't reach the bottom and there was meat all the way down. It was so big, and they didn't take another picture after digging it up. Later they took pictures and it looked like it was covered in wounds, like its skin was torn and flesh exposed. So it's suspected that before it died, it might have had a fierce battle with some huge creature. Of course, it's also possible that after it died, it was bitten by sharks or something else into that state. Oh, so this thing was discovered for a month and was just left on the beach with many people coming to see it. Then, a month later, a huge storm occurred, and the next day, when they went to look, the thing was gone. This particular thing was discovered on a different beach located approximately 2 miles away, correct?
Was it buried again? Oh, it was.
This time it wasn't buried deep, so they hauled it away. This Weber was afraid it would disappear overnight again, so he got some people, along with 6 horses and a sled, to transport the thing away.
Capture it now.
Yes, they took a lot of photos of the carriage. The object was long, and that was the largest it could be when the photos were taken at the time. The clarity was just like that, and it couldn't be enlarged.
What about the quick carriage?
It weighs 5 tons, and people can't pull it. I'm not talking about taking a picture of a carriage. You have a feeling, right? You only know where it is after taking the picture, and even then, you don't know where it is. They dragged this thing to a spot next to a hotel near a train station. They thought it might be easier to transport it from near the train station, right? After placing it next to the hotel, this thing became part of St. Augustine's. It became a famous attraction, and people went to see it, wondering what it was. However, it quickly decayed, but many people likely saw it before it did. Before it decayed, they took samples and made specimens, particularly Mr. Weber, who divided the specimen into many parts and sent them to various university professors, hoping they could study what it was. Due to the technological limitations of the time, university professors relied on their own experience to determine what kind of meat it was, and opinions varied. At the time, the most authoritative cephalopod expert in the United States was a professor at Yale University. Dinsmore Vernier, upon initially seeing the photos and descriptions of this thing, said that it might be a giant squid, and possibly the largest giant squid in history. Based on his calculations, this creature's legs might be 30 meters long, with a total length of 60 meters. The biggest found so far is 18 meters, so he guessed this one to be 60 meters, making it the largest ever. But after he saw the sample, he said, no, this is neither a squid nor an octopus. Anyway, it was completely different from the cephalopods he studied. The specimen of this thing has been preserved to this day, kept at the Smithsonian Institution. The Smithsonian is the world's largest museum system funded by the US government, overseeing a number of well-known museums, including the largest and most famous museums in the United States. This specimen has been preserved at the Smithsonian, and anyone who wants to study it can apply, obtain the specimen, and research it. 70 years later, with technological advancements, it was re-examined in 1971. This thing, it's not a whale. Looking at the cell structure, it's similar to an octopus, not a squid. It is an octopus. An octopus has 8 legs, whereas a 10-legged octopus resides on the seafloor because it swims.
It's not a giant squid.
They mentioned that the giant squid and giant sour soy sauce are both squids. He said this is an octopus. The largest octopus found is the North Pacific giant octopus with a length of 95
That's rather substantial, 60.
meters. That's not possible, right?
Octopus accompanied by tangy soy sauce.
Octopus, tangy soy sauce, and similar items. But looking at the cellular structure, it seems quite like an octopus, though not exactly the same.
That is due to the fact that the mule has not been properly taken care of yet. Mule, correct? It is born from the union of a donkey and a horse, isn't it?
It is the intermediary organism. Well, it's possible. Let me tell you, the judgment isn't over yet. By the way, speaking of the difference between octopus and squid, the octopus has a completely soft body with no bones at all, while the squid has a hard bone inside, so they are completely different creatures. And the way they are eaten is completely different, right? Octopus is used in takoyaki, and squid is grilled squid. Then, 15 years later in 1986, Roy McCall, a biochemistry expert from the University of Chicago, analyzed this biological sample. He thought the cell structure's appearance wasn't important. What mattered was the chemical composition. Similar biochemical compositions are essentially the same. Well, you see, it contains copper, iron, and manganese, and the proportions are basically fixed. A biologist conducted a chemical analysis of the sample from this creature and compared it to known whales, dolphins, and giant squids. The results showed that the composition of this thing is different from all of these, unlike any known species. More accurately, this thing is a piece of collagen. 5 tons of collagen. Of course, there isn't much of this sample left, as most of it has decayed. Only a representative piece was cut from the top. Then 10 years later in 1995, with the advancement of technology and the advent of the electron microscope, the sample was tested again. It was determined that this thing was a striated vertebrate collagen fiber, so it definitely wasn't the giant squid sauce. Therefore, it wasn't an octopus or a squid. Another 10 years passed, and in 2004, further testing basically supported the 1995 results. It means that it could possibly be a piece of cortex from the environment. But what about your leg? What is your leg? I don't know. Why aren't there so many legs? It could be that during a fight between a sperm whale and a giant squid, a leg got stuck to its body, making it look like part of it. But that's not right. The composition should be different. The key issue is that we don't know which part of the sample was taken. If it merely slices off a segment of whale blubber, then it is likely a whale. However, if it slices into the squid portion, then it is a squid, isn't it? Well, after discussing 3 giant marine creatures discovered 100 years ago, let's talk about a few more recent ones, which have photos and videos. Was it last year? Oh no, this isn't something that gets discovered every year. It's just that this year, it was found occasionally. The most recent one was in August 2018, when a white, furry monster corpse was found on the Pacific coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia. This unpleasantly odorous object is largely buried within the sand, and there exists a video of it available on YouTube. Oh, in this particular video, you are able to observe this entity. It's quite soft, resembling a marine creature adorned with fur. I'm not entirely sure, but it is present on the shoreline. This place is uninhabited, and when someone arrived, they discovered something emerging from the ground, but it's unclear how long it had been there. This thing is about 5 meters long, with tubular white hair all over its body. Its hair is hollow, similar to that of a polar bear. But polar bears aren't this size. A big polar bear is around 2 or 3 meters. This thing is 5 meters with hollow fur that insulates and retains heat. Furthermore, a significant number of individuals may not be aware that the fur of a polar bear is not truly white. It is, in fact, transparent. Given that this creature is larger than the largest known polar bear, some speculate that it could potentially be the remnants of an ancient mammoth. It just gradually melts in the permafrost and then suddenly emerges. However, the mammoth remains excavated so far have had ordinary fur. It is not the type of hollow hair. Therefore, some specialists believe that this could potentially be due to, no, not due to, it might possibly be a whale. Why do whales have hair? They're not completely without it. Some was found in remains on the Kamchatka Peninsula 3 months ago. On the coastline of the Philippines, an enormous white carcass covered with white hair was discovered, resembling this.
Seems so.
Does it resemble this thing that is 6 meters long, weighs 2 tons, and emits a strong, rotting odor?
Is it also hollow hair, perhaps?
This hair isn't from China. What is this hair? I'll tell you about the Philippines in a moment. Actually, for 2 consecutive years, in 2017 and 2018, this thing was found in different places, and it wasn't just one. This was discovered in 2017. The Philippine authorities sent people to inspect this thing and believed it to be a decomposed whale or dugong carcass. The hair was thought to possibly be fibrous tissue left behind after muscle tissue decomposed, but it is not hollow. So it's still somewhat different from the one in Russia, though it seems a bit similar, doesn't it? Speaking of white hair, there's another creature exactly 100 years ago. On December 27, 1924, the Daily Mail of the United Kingdom reported that 2 months earlier, on October 25th, someone witnessed a massive white creature engage in a struggle with 2 killer whales off the coast of South Africa. The fight lasted for over 3 hours, and during this battle, the white creature leaped 5 to 6 meters out of the water, fighting with the 2 whales. In the end, it seemed to have been bitten to death by the whales and stopped moving. When it leaped out of the water, its body was covered in white fur. Resembling an enormous polar bear, significantly larger than an orca. Based on the description from that period, an illustration might appear like this. This gigantic creature was subsequently carried ashore by the waves, and it was observed to be entirely enveloped in white fur, somewhat akin to a Philippine. They mentioned this creature's fur is around 20 centimeters long, and it has an elephant-like trunk. Its body is 14 meters wide, 3 meters high, and 1.5 meters long. So it's like...
The start of that sea feast was quite fragrant.
You're talking about the elephant's trunk, right? Well, it's said that when this creature washed ashore, no distinct head was found. So even though it has something like an elephant's trunk, it could be a tail, and it's unclear which end is the head. The report then caused a strong reaction, with many believing there might be elephant-like creatures in the sea. After all, it battled 2 orcas for 3 hours. This creature's combat abilities are truly extraordinary. Additionally, in this particular region, whales are frequently attacked and killed by mysterious creatures. The suspicion is that this creature was responsible, but where did it go afterward? According to subsequent reports, the creature did not actually die. It was just exhausted and was blown to the shore. It rested there for a while, and after a few days, it swam back on its own. This particular creature was subsequently named Trunka by a mysterious biologist of that era. He simply and casually assigned it a name, akin to a nickname, but eventually individuals continued to refer to it as Trunka Trunka. It is possible that numerous experts are of the belief that this creature could also be the entity that washed ashore in the Philippines, bearing a resemblance to a whale carcass. It looks like he was entangled with 2 orcas, but it might actually be a corpse floating there, and the 2 orcas thought it was something fun they could interact with. Bite him a little, push him a little, and you feel like they're in a tussle, but actually, that's not the case according to experts.
What happened to him later, according to the experts?
It is believed that it might have been pushed back by the waves, swallowed again after a storm, and the ocean currents moved inward. There are certainly ways to explain it, correct? But this, like, something akin to an elephant is not entirely without basis. In the regions of Indonesia, as well as some parts of Southeast Asia, traditional cultural narratives indeed mention an ancient creature referred to as a sea elephant.
Their gods aren't real.
No, in that temple located in Bali, it was once quite common. It appears like this, with its body resembling that of a fish. It has everything prepared, and then it has a head like an elephant. You can simply understand it as a creature with the body of a fish and an elephant-like face. In Indonesian traditional culture, it is believed to be a real primitive creature, just like the saber-toothed tiger or the mammoth. Its most notable feature is its tusks. Wow, it really does have tusks. Mythological descriptions say it's similar to the creature in South Africa known as the trunco. Recently, Indonesian media occasionally report fishermen discovering the carcasses of this creature in the sea.
Just long.
It was really huge. A ship reported seeing a body that was 30 meters long. Well, it was floating on the sea, and how do we know it's not a whale? It's because it has 2 very long tusks, reportedly 2 to 3 meters long, which are a bit longer than African elephant tusks. African elephant tusks average about 1.5 meters, though they can grow up to 3 meters. This picture below was taken in 2011 by someone in the Langkawi Islands in Malaysia, and it's said to be the corpse of a fish that resembles an elephant. These are said to be tusks, but it's unclear what they really are. Should more photos be taken? I only saw one picture from 2011, and it might be fake. In 2016, a fisherman on Indonesia's Selarue Island, possibly a less developed area, found a 6-meter-long animal carcass on the shore. He first thought it was a whale, but upon closer look, he realized it wasn't. This particular creature possesses elongated tusks, a visage featuring an elephant-like trunk, sizable ears, and a tail reminiscent of a whale that complements those substantial ears. Just like the myth's description.
It resembles an elephant's head with something emerging in the sea. Large ears, perhaps that's all.
Yeah, it was used for water. Then he and the other villagers buried it, saying it emitted a foul odor and they were afraid it might cause a plague, so they hurriedly buried it. It could really be in the sea.
There are unknown things, and these creatures are quite alike, likely of the same type.
It should be a type mostly with hair, did you see that? The ocean. It's like an elephant's trunk, isn't it? We currently understand less than 5% of it, actually even less than we know about the universe. So the possibility of anything being in there is quite high, given how deep it is, right? It's very likely that there are creatures much larger than what we know. Fortunately, they aren't amphibious. If it were amphibious, it'd be scary.